In the past 30 years, society has become abnormal, and this condition is called a low-desire society. Young people have become hikikomori, isolating themselves and only seeking small pleasures. After all, they don't aspire to anything big. If they have something to eat and drink, they're content to just stay at home, and that's it. And as for the elderly, they suddenly realize that depending on others for care in old age is becoming increasingly critical, and they have no one to look after them. The only solution is to make money, but without consuming or spending, just lying flat, accepting stagnation. Thus, general consumption in society decreases, and at the same time, society doesn't develop. With the drop in consumption, companies stop investing because they can't sell their products. This creates a vicious cycle where young people have no ambition, don't want to work or compete. They just want to eat, drink, and live in stagnation.
In recent years, a large number of herbivore men and fasting men have emerged in our country, along with many young people who don't socialize, don't strive, and are increasingly avoiding marriage, especially in major cities. But what is the reason behind this phenomenon? There are various causes, and one explanation from psychology calls this behavioral sink. This was a comment from a follower of mine who asked me to discuss the topic. So, what is behavioral sink? This term refers to social pressure created by a high density of social interactions, even without external pressures, leading to behavioral collapse. It originates from the experiments of ethologist John Calhoun, called Universe 25. This experiment was quite complex, but in short, Calhoun used 4 pairs of mice, 4 males and 4 females, and placed them in an experimental space, offering them an abundance of food, water, a comfortable temperature, and no external threats or pressures, creating a mouse paradise. Interestingly, these 8 mice multiplied quickly, but after a certain point, the population began to drop drastically. From a peak of over 2,000 mice, the number reduced to 0. The entire experiment lasted less than 5 years. The researcher found that behavioral sink was the central reason for the collapse, a term derived from this experiment. When they reached peak population, the mice started exhibiting strange behaviors. They avoided socializing, isolated themselves, spent the entire day grooming, lazy and inactive. If another mouse disturbed or attacked them, they reacted violently. The males also lost interest in the females, and unusual behaviors emerged, like males interacting with other males and females with other females. Researchers believe this experiment can be applied to today's human society. Take, for example, herbivore men. These are men who grew up protected by their parents, without experiencing hunger, pressure, conflict, or significant frustrations. When they want something, their parents provide it. This leads to low ambition. In adulthood, they have little resilience. Faced with difficulties at work or in relationships, they prefer to escape. If work is too stressful, they quit. If they think a relationship will require a lot of time and energy, they simply give up on dating or marriage. Fasting men are even more extreme, showing no interest in socializing. They prefer to spend time alone, browsing the internet, reading, with almost no contact with the outside world. For them, time is precious and should be devoted to themselves. They live in an immediate and self-centered way. There are also the unmarried who fear marriage and romantic relationships. They think that with such high divorce rates, dating will probably end in a breakup. So why invest time and money in it? They decide to avoid both dating and marriage altogether. What does this teach us? That we need boundaries and space. Low ambition, lack of interest in socializing, working, and marrying arise, in my opinion, because these people have never experienced need. Without great material desires, they control their budgets and avoid spending on unnecessary things, reducing dependence on work. They also don't feel a strong need for socialization, because with the internet, they can find companionship and entertainment without leaving home, connecting with people anywhere without having to meet expectations or make compromises. In the real world, we are surrounded by strangers and occupied by various groups that intrude on our solitude. Many prefer to reserve this time just for themselves. I hope this long explanation helps you understand these phenomena, like fasting men and herbivore men, from the perspective of psychology and behavioral sink.
Most of the youth in our country are suffering from the invasion of Japanese culture. Have you noticed that many young people today are becoming more and more feminine? Boys who were perfectly normal when they were young are growing up to become more and more effeminate. Many parents are completely perplexed by this. In reality, the fundamental reason isn't that there's something wrong with the child, but rather the harmful cultural influence they receive at a crucial stage in their development. Without realizing it, they are subtly shaped by it. This culture is called Danmai, which came from Japan. Take a look at these images I have here. Look at this one, and this one. You think there's nothing wrong with them, right? Now, look at this one. Still nothing? These are images from Danmai novels. Dan means immersion or addiction, and Mai means beautiful young man. So, Danmai means being obsessed with beauty. The culture of young romance, especially male-male romance, originated in Japan but spread widely here. When Japan realized the problems this culture caused among young people, society tried to control it, but it came to our country disguised as anime and spread uncontrollably. After many years, Danmai culture became very popular among middle school students here. To give you an idea, among 10 students, at least half are reading Danmai novels. In some regions, the penetration rate has reached 100%, meaning that all middle and high school students are reading these novels. And this is a very sensitive and crucial stage in a person's life, when they are forming their views on gender and sexuality. At this stage, with the influence of Danmai culture, adolescents' personalities, temperaments, and even their views on gender are subtly shaped. It's like a frog being boiled in warm water. Little by little, they are transformed into a different person without realizing it. Now, think back and look at the contestants and trainees on those talent shows. They are all effeminate, wearing heavy makeup, with fair and delicate skin, unable to handle the slightest setbacks, crying in public, pouting, having more cosmetics than many women, etc. What caused this? I can't say for sure that it's just the Danmai culture, but with how widespread and abnormal this change is, I'm certain that Danmai culture plays a role. It has a subtle behind-the-scenes effect. The scariest part is that our society is now embracing this decline in our young people with an open, accepting attitude. Those who don't know whether they are men or women can now stand proudly under the spotlight, admired by thousands. They can become stars, idols, even gods. They then influence the next generation of young, naive people. What was once a disgrace to others has now become something noble to us, almost like a belief. For thousands of years, our ancestors have taught us that men should be strong, courageous, decisive, and firm. They should never act like women, because that would make others despise them. But now, what should be despised has become a symbol of fashion and avant-garde. Are we really outdated? Or is there some hidden conspiracy succeeding? If men turn out this way in the future, who will defend the country then?
Did you know that Chinese men are in such a miserable state when facing women? Their status is so low because of these submissive dogs and bootlickers who ruined the market. They're basically traitors among men. Look at these guys in the comments of beautiful women's live streams or in videos with suggestive content. They say things like, "Wow, amazing, so beautiful, I love it, so pretty, wife. Isn't it shameful? Have you never seen a woman before?" They see one with a little beauty, which, by the way, is all enhanced by filters, and they melt. It's all fake, you know? On TikTok, you see beautiful women every day. But do you see them on the street? It's all fake. Then, when they come to my space, for example, they come to criticize women as if they were clever. But it's because of traitors like these that men devalue themselves. They have no limits. They see women, in terms of public opinion, supporting each other. But men, they just have this submissive attitude, no dignity. It's pathetic, really. Some of these men, when they see a beautiful woman, act like they've never seen the world. In the comments, they ask, "Do you mind having one more boyfriend? I don't mind being the second." Where's the shame? It's gotten to the point where they don't even seem like real men. These guys live like this, being submissive to women and fighting with other men. They will never succeed, whether in business or with women. They don't have a firm attitude. I'm telling you, don't trust the relationship standards women tell you. All of this is meant to create submissive men. When women are truly attracted, it's not like that. The firmer you are, the more they like you. Do you understand? It's because people, by nature, are attracted to what is difficult to get. You need to have this attitude and not be controlled by a woman. In the end, you're just a man, right? You don't have to kneel to win a woman. But nowadays, it seems like many men have lost all courage. To win a girl, they kneel with both knees.
Who is castrating the masculinity of Chinese men? Have you noticed that men in China are gradually losing their masculine strength due to cultural infiltration? This isn't an exaggeration. At some point, we started seeing numerous ads, short videos, entertainment shows, and even children's illustrations portraying foreign men paired with Chinese women. When you look closer, it's truly unsettling. If you don't believe it, go back and look at the ads from our national brand Huawei. In many of those ads, Chinese girls are accompanied by foreign men. Even in thrilling moments, like the launch of Harmony OS, we see the same thing. Chinese families, Chinese products, Chinese brands, Chinese women, yet the man portrayed is a foreigner. Is there no Chinese man capable of taking on family responsibilities? There are also various other ads and even hanfu, traditional Chinese attire exhibitions in Paris, where a foreign man is shown exchanging deep gazes with a Chinese woman. Hanfu represents Chinese pride and cultural respect. With such images, are they implying that Chinese men are no longer suitable for Chinese women? Is it that only Mr. Yang, a term referring to the idealized foreign man, can match them? Take a look at the Spring Festival sketches from recent years. They almost all show women as dominant and men acting scared. And this is a recurring theme in short videos as well. Many have come across news stories about foreign men who, over 10 years, have been with more than 1,000 Chinese girls, and usually, they're the ones seeking these relationships. It's not uncommon, and it's not only white men. Even African men and Bangladeshi students are able to attract Chinese women. Meanwhile, satire about Chinese men is everywhere. They say men shouldn't have secret savings, that men should fear their wives. Narratives like this are, honestly, hard to accept. Nowadays, if a Chinese man doesn't have money, he becomes humiliated to his very core. Supporting women's position is important and should be encouraged, but why is this paired with the devaluation of men? These two values are not opposites. What we can do now is gradually help men regain their confidence so they can take on their responsibilities, while some women should let go of vanity and embrace virtues like dignity and kindness. Chinese men support most Chinese families. They can't just be pushed to the background. Otherwise, if the morals of society decay, it could take generations to repair. Wouldn't you agree?
After the East Asia demasculinization plan, by shaping the Xianru, people's aesthetic values were altered. They stopped admiring the image of a manly man, making men more effeminate and weak, which led to the country losing its overall combat power. Japan was originally a country with a strong culture of masculinity, where men admired the spirit of the samurai. In the past, the male idols they liked were always those with strong masculine energy. However, in the 1950s and 1960s, the United States, through control of Japanese media, began to show men on screen as young, thin, with soft features and no signs of aggression. Through a series of selections, campaigns, and promotions, Japan's aesthetic was gradually altered, forcibly changing the public's taste. Japanese men completely lost their masculine traits, and the once hot-blooded heroes of the Showa era transformed into otakus in the Heisei era. As for Thailand, when Muay Thai, a martial art known for its strength, entered the country, the Thai men, who were originally tough and strong, also underwent a transformation. Since the 1960s, when the US military arrived in Thailand, the number of ladyboys increased from hundreds to tens of thousands. If Japan and Thailand were forced into this, South Korea was more proactive in this process. Seeing the success of the idol industry in Japan, South Korea became envious and quickly turned the cultural industry into a national policy, promoting the spread of idols. They followed Japan's example, creating many idol factories, where young men wore makeup, grew their hair long, wore earrings, and showed seductive smiles, often more captivating than those of women. This trend spread rapidly across the country, eventually leading to over 1 million idol trainees in South Korea. One can only imagine how effeminate South Korea has become. As you may have guessed, the major entertainment companies in China saw this as a business opportunity and directly copied Japan and South Korea's idol programs, allowing the trend of effeminacy to also flourish in China. A striking example of this was the Candy Super Sweet group, where several men behaved in an effeminate manner in front of the cameras, with coquettish gestures and cute expressions, making viewers shiver. There was no trace of masculinity left. If all men became like this, fragile and weak, could we really count on them in a combat situation? However, unlike Japan and South Korea, China is a sovereign country, and upon seeing that things were going in the wrong direction, the government quickly intervened and banned idol training programs. The Ministry of Education also declared that masculinity is a virtue. Yes, men should be men, but there are still many people who have been severely brainwashed by the effeminate idol culture from Japan and South Korea and have fallen in love with it. We hope that everyone can contribute to making more people aware of the dangers of the East Asia demasculinization plan.
The simplest way to destroy a nation is to make its men lose their backbone and courage. Look at Japan today, a people that once followed the spirit of Bushido, but now sees its popular culture dominated by the cult of femininity. Look at South Korea, where men have abandoned traditional standards of masculinity, dressing extravagantly like female stars. With the success of Korean and Japanese dramas, this aesthetic linked to the Hallyu culture began to spread throughout China. Many young artists started to imitate the celebrities of entertainment, unaware that they were, in fact, entering a carefully orchestrated conspiracy by others. If you stop and read the comments on this topic in Chinese platforms, you will find various theories. The most popular among the Chinese is the following. To continue with the cultural invasion, the Western countries, which dominate the narrative, began to act strategically. Thus, the plan to destabilize Asia was put into practice. The goal of the West is clear. Military aggression and economic exploitation can destroy a country, but cultural infiltration can extinguish a race. They want to completely destroy the fighting spirit of the East Asian people, allowing the U.S. to win without fighting. Under Western influence, in just a few decades, East Asian aesthetics have declined significantly. Men began to pursue feminization. Women began to follow exaggerated standards of seduction. Children began to imitate adults, and adults, in turn, adopted an infantilized aesthetic. Meanwhile, Westerners promote beauty standards that create anxiety about appearance, selling us various aesthetic devices and making a fortune. In contrast, in Hollywood, superheroes like Superman, Iron Man, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Sylvester Stallone are portrayed with big, muscular bodies, and even actresses seek a healthy body with defined muscles and tanned skin. Even with the rise of the LGBT movement in the West, Hollywood's male casting still prioritizes the tough guy standard, owaski. This is one of the most popular theories I have seen in the comments on this video. To be honest, while it makes some sense, I think their point of view is somewhat misguided. The West is following the same path, so if this were a strategy by the US, they would have fallen into their own trap. Therefore, this theory doesn't make much sense to me. What do you think? Does it make any sense to you? And what is your opinion on the dilemma presented in today's video? If you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I'll see you in the next video.